I had never been to a nudist resort before. I had been to a few nude beaches and loved being naked, but the atmosphere there was often a bit tense. Some guys walk around the beach staring at women, and overall there are just too many men. I had been to K-Spa, and again, I love being naked, but even as a man I felt uncomfortable because of the atmosphere some men create. I was stared at, I saw men touching themselves in the sauna, and one old, creepy guy tried to start a conversation with me. Being naked at home, I love it, but sometimes it's difficult because our neighbors live very close. I used to love running naked at night, I enjoyed the adrenaline rush, the feeling, the excitement. And I loved being naked, but the fear of being arrested was always in the back of my mind. With every one of these experiences, I enjoyed the nudity, but certain people cause discomfort. Nudity can be both freeing and aggressive. Each time, I wanted more. At the top of my list was always a visit to a resort or a campground. Finally, after more than 8 years of wanting to visit such a place, I was able to go. I chose Desert Sun Resort because I had read good reviews about it, and it was only 3 minutes away from where we were staying. Before the trip, I thought about this visit constantly. I dreamed about walking into the lobby, swimming freely, and socializing with people without a single thread of clothing on me. Almost every evening I imagined this visit. I was beside myself with excitement. When the day came, I felt an inner calm, even though I expected to be nervous. I packed my things and drove to the resort. As soon as I turned the corner, I saw the entrance. From the outside, nothing special, but I had been imagining myself walking through that door for over a month. When I parked, I saw a couple getting out of their car and heading toward the resort. At that moment, I realized they were nudists. They looked like kind, friendly people with great tans. I waited a bit in the car because I didn't want to check in at the same time as them. It might have been awkward if they heard that it was my first time. After waiting long enough, I went inside. The couple was still checking in but was almost finished, and then the surreal experience of first exposure to nudism began, or maybe this isn't just for beginners. Next to the front desk, behind a glass door, I saw a lot of naked bodies walking around. It looked wild. I wanted to keep watching, but I tried not to look like a creep. I walked up to the desk and began checking in. Then a woman, about 65 years old, rushed in, completely naked. Again, that surreal feeling. I had never been inside a building with a naked woman in this context. She was rambling about some song on the radio, and the man at the desk, although polite, was clearly annoyed. She probably comes in to chat often. After checking in, I walked out the door. It felt like I was walking into the Garden of Eden. I only glanced around briefly, but I kept an eye on the couple who had just arrived because I wanted to see where and when they would undress. This question had been bothering me for the past month. Where and when do people undress at a nudist resort? At the pool? Would it be strange to take off a swimsuit by the pool? People would see your worn-out underwear. When I looked at them, they seemed to have just undressed right by the pool. I decided to head to the locker room to undress. When I found it, it turned out to be a room about 4 by 10 feet with 2 open doors leading to the pool. Not much privacy. Then I thought, what's the point of privacy? I'm going to be naked anyway. So before I had time to overthink it, I took off my shirt. It felt familiar. Then, without hesitation, I pulled off my shorts and tossed them into the locker. I stood there completely naked. Even though no one was looking at me, I felt vulnerable. But not scared. In fact, I felt a strange calm. I grabbed my things, looked for an open spot by the pool, and walked over. I was now fully a nudist, freely walking around strangers in my natural state. I laid down my towel and sat with a magazine. But honestly, I had no desire to read it. I wanted to look around. So, through my sunglasses, I looked at everyone I could see. Next to me sat a woman in her 50s, leaning back and talking to her husband. It was strange to see the same folds on her thighs that appear on my wife's thighs when she sits like that. It wasn't a bad kind of strange, it wasn't sexual or judgmental. Rather, and this would become a theme, I enjoyed seeing how amazingly different yet similar every woman's body was. Their skin often folds, wrinkles, sags, jiggles, and rests in similar ways, yet each body has its own unique traits. It made me love my wife's body even more, to appreciate the feminine legacy her body represents while also loving the parts that are uniquely hers. Of course, I had seen plenty of naked men before, so that wasn't much of a revelation. But that brief glance set the tone for a day of holistic acceptance of the people around me, the people I know who weren't there, and of course, myself. Looking further, I saw a group of 4 people, 2 couples who were probably around 30 years old. Seeing these men feeling comfortable with their friends' partners, and vice versa, was really cool. There was no sexual energy. Throughout the day, I saw them swimming, eating, and sunbathing together. They were simply enjoying life, fully accepting themselves. There were many people in the pool, swimming and talking to each other. As I looked around, I was once again struck by how many people were accepting themselves outwardly. The group was very diverse in age and gender. The average age was much younger than I expected. People aged 30 to 40 made up about 20%, those aged 40 to 60 about 60%, and the rest were over 60. Seeing around 10 people who were 10 years younger than me made me realize that this nudist thing isn't just for very old, weird people. Another very pleasant surprise was the lack of a male imbalance. I had imagined there would be 2 men for every woman, simply because men tend to have fewer social hang-ups about nudity. But I was wrong, the ratio was almost a perfect 50 to 50. I didn't stay there long, it was far from the pool, and I really wanted to see the entire, honestly quite small, resort. I grabbed my bag and headed toward the quiet pool. On the way, I passed the bar and restaurant, where several naked people were sitting on towels, having breakfast. I reached the quiet pool, and it truly was quiet. Everyone there was in couples, sitting separately from each other. I sat in a shaded spot with my magazine and enjoyed the canned cocktail I had brought. Again, I didn't stay long. In my first hour at the resort, I was really trying to figure out how to fit in. This was purely because I was a lone man and was trying very hard not to look like a creep, like those men on the beaches. So I went back to the main pool and decided to blend in. I needed to do that.